Welcome back to Texas Tea. This is Roger D, where I bring on entrepreneurs, hustlers, and prodigies so they can tell their success stories. And today's guest originally was a very shy kid, found his confidence through martial arts, specifically Jiu Jitsu, took that confidence to become a small business owner himself. And regardless of if you're getting auto insurance, home insurance, life insurance, or he's choking you out on the mat, you're in good hands. So today's guest, I got Sirju on the show with me. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. I'm glad I got you with that chuckle at the end.
Yeah, I love that. That was good.
So quick advice, like we were talking before, you were a shy kid. You kind of had to build up your confidence. So if someone has an idea that they want to start a business themselves, they're like, you know what, I like have this amazing idea, or they just want to go in business for themselves, but they feel like they don't have the confidence in themselves. What advice would you give them to kind of start to build that confidence up and get to that point?
With me, I had to throw myself in the fire, you know, and I had to really just say to myself, in a way, just Nike, just do it, you know. I mean, even when it came to jiu-jitsu, jumping into that, you know, I just kind of just jumped in there and just started doing it. Took my first class and went from there. From doing the competitions and instruction and coaching and things like that, it gave me the confidence to open up my own business. So what I would say to other people would be to, you know, jump out there and go ahead and do it. Take that chance, you know, because you never know if you might have that next great idea. You never know what your business can go ahead and do also, you know. But more than anything, don't be afraid to start small and then let it grow. You know, a lot of people, they'll go in there and they'll just jump in full throttle, and then in the first, second year, they're gone. You know, don't be afraid to start out small. Don't be afraid also to maybe start, maybe you're, like for me, for insurance. For insurance, I started out when I was 16, 17 years old, and I was a telemarketer. And it just kind of all happened by chance. I was a telemarketer. Then eventually, 18, 19 years old, they asked me, hey, do you want to get your license? So-and-so got fired or quit or whatever. And I said, sure. All right. And it pays more. All right, cool. So I went ahead and got my license. And then from there, eventually I said, you know what? I kind of like these sales guys. These sales guys, man, they're really up here. You know, they're making some money. You know, I want to go ahead and do that. Now, the only problem with that was, like we were talking about, I was a shy kid. So probably the worst job for a shy kid to have is to be in sales. But I threw myself in there, and I kind of faked it till I made it, you know, and just kind of really just asserted myself and put myself in that position. And then eventually I said, you know what, I've been in sales for this long. How about I go ahead and try myself doing an actual agency owner? And I went from there, you know, and but mainly though I was in so many different positions that helped me, because when I have an employee come in, I can direct them in any way possible because I've been there. You know, I didn't just buy an agency, you know, and just kind of just jumped in and said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take 2 months of learning it or whatever. No, I was doing it for 18, 19 years. So that's probably more than anything I would definitely go ahead and say. If you want help, start at the bottom. Don't be afraid to start at the bottom and work your way up.
So if someone really wants to get into insurance or, I don't know, electricity brokering or whatever it is, they should go into the industry first, head first, and learn it from there, and don't worry about the results. Don't worry about where they start.
Exactly.
Got you.
Exactly.
And I heard a lot about there. I'm not very up and up on insurance in general. I heard you say something specific. I'm going to go on a slight tangent.
Sure.
You said that, you know, I started my own agency. I didn't buy an agency. So all that is very interesting to me, because I remember talking to different agency owners, and agencies would fail, and then they'd get like cannibalized by other agencies, and it was a very curious industry to me. So for someone who's shopping at like an Allstate insurance company, like it's an agency directly owned by you, but then there's brokers, and then there's, you know, brokers that are people who buy the agencies, like what's the difference in everything? And for a consumer, like, does it really matter to them, or like what should they look out for? I know it's kind of more of a business
that's all right.
question. Yeah.
I'm just kind of thinking how I should go and answer it. So I guess let me first ask this. What you're trying to ask is what's the difference between like being an agency owner of an Allstate and being a broker?
Yeah, I guess I had two questions in there. Sorry. I should have parsed them out. First one is, does it matter if someone starts from the bottom or buys an agency? Like, is there a huge experience difference there, or does someone have to buy an agency that has experience?
Got it. That's a very good question, actually. Okay, so if I could do it all over again, I would probably buy an agency.
Okay.
It's so many bumps in the road that you wind up getting. The good part about it was I had been in insurance for so long that I knew what needed to be done, and I worked for so many great agents. So I saw what they did, and I saw a lot of behind the scenes things they did, and they told me a lot of things. And that helped me along the way. So I started from scratch. But starting from scratch is a very scary thing, because it's almost like, paycheck to paycheck. You don't know how much is coming in the beginning.
Yeah.
You might have a very good sales month, and then next month may flop. At least when you buy a book, you actually know this is how big this book is. Every single month, you can see how many clients you have, how much premium it is. You know how much you're getting paid every single month, and you can plan accordingly. It was kind of, I mean, literally when I went in there, my head was just spinning. I was just like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So it's definitely, if I could do it all over again, I'd probably, I wouldn't trade the experience for anything, but when I tell people, I let them know, like, look, if you're going to do this is tough. If you really want to go ahead and have time and be able to spend time with your family and not have to work, 12, 13-hour days, then I would advise buying a book. That way you can hire the proper staff and they can go ahead and help you with everything. But when you really, start from scratch, it's painful. One of the blessings that I had, I don't know, maybe blessings and curses, I don't know, was that I was a single guy. I could really give that extra time. But yeah, 12, 13-hour days, that was a daily, weekends were non-existent. It was very, very, it was a crazy moment right there. But, it works out for you, eventually you grow the book, but yeah, definitely there's a difference in between those two. The experiences are definitely big.
Yeah. That's some good insight. And while you're talking about that, I was thinking the fact that you said you bring in the right people and having them trained up. Y'all have to go through licensing. Y'all have to know exactly what the products are and what's offering, right?
Correct.
So even if you did buy the book, you would have at least that baseline knowledge, the same knowledge that you had coming in, starting from scratch, right?
So I'll say this, that, at that time, at Allstate now, they give a lot more, they require a lot more criteria to go ahead and become an agent. But at that time, it wasn't as much. So, there were some people coming from all different walks of life, just wanted to change in something. And maybe they had maybe 3 months worth of training. And it's like 3 months of training, here's a business,
Yeah.
And I was just thinking like, wow, this is going to be a crazy moment for them. And so out of those, I think we had maybe like 12 people inside of the class. Out of those 12 people, say maybe 3 or 4 of us are still existing, and doing well. So it's, that just kind of tell you out of 12, only 3 or 4 people made it out of those 12,
wow.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know how their experience was, but I remember them calling me a lot, asking me, say, hey, Joe, blah, 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 this and this. Do you remember them? I'm like, yeah, let me, a lot of my days were helping them out in a lot of different ways. So
I got you.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different now. They give you a lot more training, but yeah, back then it was almost like kind of Wild West a little bit.
So your experience starting from the bottom gave you a huge advantage. You feel like now, if a consumer goes to an Allstate agent, it's going to be a similar experience around the clock, or around the between the different ones.
Yeah, you're talking about other agencies, or you're just talking about for me?
No, I'm just saying in general the experience.
Oh yeah,
is better created for the agents. But and then the second question is, what's the real difference between working with an insurance broker and just an agent directly?
Cool. Okay. So an insurance broker, they're allowed to work with multiple companies. I mean, really, it's almost as many companies there as they want. Sometimes there's these companies that will, and I get offered them all the time. You know, can't tell you how many times I'm getting offered someone saying, "Hey, you can go ahead and open up, you know, your own, you know, agency, blah blah blah, this and this," knowing that I'm an Allstate agent, but they want to move me over to their side, you know, and be a broker.
Like farm. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the good part about being a broker is you have a little bit more selection. Whereas in me, while Allstate has multiple companies within them that they allow us to use, but they're very particular with who they use. So basically, there's this kind of almost a credit rating for insurance companies. And so Allstate will only allow you to work with A-. I mean, I think A, actually. A, no. If they go to A-, then they're like, "Hey, you can't work with these guys anymore."
Okay.
And they're like, basically, don't talk to these guys anymore. You know, do no more business with them until they come back up to an A rating. You know, whereas in a broker, they can work with anyone. And so that credit rating that they get is mainly on things like how much money they have for claims, how well they handle claims, their financial backing, things like that. So you really want to kind of work with that when it comes to a company. And so I appreciate that with Allstate when it comes to that, because, you know, it's more beneficial for me because I know the company's going to be a good company. I'm not just passing my client to just anyone.
Yeah.
So, but it has its pluses and minuses where I'm really subjected to just those companies. Whereas in a broker, they can, anyone they want, they can go ahead and do that, which means in some ways they can almost get a little bit more money based upon that because they have more choices. So.
Got you. So it's just it's a matter of not necessarily quantity over quality. Well, I guess it is technically.
In a way, yeah, it can be, yeah.
Quantity over quality. So both agencies and brokers have their place.
They do. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So your path going back to, you started out in a call center. You got your insurance, became an agent, and then you owned the agency. So between that time, when did you start jiu-jitsu? When did you start training jiu-jitsu?
Let me see. I was in my 20s.
Okay.
Don't remember the exact time frame, but I was in my 20s.
You're already at this point an agent.
I was already in sales at that time.
Okay.
So I think I had just started working sales. And basically I remember just looking through the yellow pages, and I was looking for martial arts. I was a huge Bruce Lee fan. So I was looking specifically for Jeet Kune Do. That's what I was looking for. And I found Jeet Kune Do. So Jeet Kune Do is...
Probably look like a real fool.
No. Jeet Kune Do is a way of basically... So Bruce Lee, in a lot of his movies, he would talk about things like you take what is important and the rest you throw away. And so he did that with other martial arts that he had learned, like boxing, kickboxing, some wrestling. He learned some jiu-jitsu, things like that. And from those, he went ahead and kind of made his own, not necessarily a martial art, but a certain way. Right. And I mean, these are things you can kind of apply to life. You know, you take what's good, you know, podcasts. I mean, you can take what's good over time. You know, your first podcast probably was completely different from your last. And you you took what was good out of that. You took what was good out of it, and then you learned, and now here's a great product that you guys have. Yeah. So that's basically what Jeet Kune Do is. So when I went over and started looking for it, the guy that I called, he was like, well, you know, Jeet Kune Do, you know, it's not necessarily a martial art. You have to go ahead and probably get some other kind of martial art first. And then he was like, can I interest you in jiu-jitsu? And I was like, well, I don't even know what that is. Yeah. You know, and then he was kind of like, well, we have a MMA class, you know, mixed martial arts class. You can go ahead and take that. And so I was like, all right, cool. So go to the mixed martial arts classes on a Saturday, walk in there, and it was in a Taekwondo studio. And they put me with this young lady. They're like, you're going to go ahead and go with her. Man, at this time, man, I was probably like 190 pounds. I was lifting weights heavy. You know, I had grown. I went from that little shy, small kid to this bodybuilding stud, you know. And they put me with her, and she was maybe 90, 100 pounds tops, you know. And she was a purple belt, though.
Oh,
you know.
man.
And man, so we start going. And
So what are you
everything.
thinking at that moment when they put everything?
I'm like, first, are you serious? Like, I was like, man, these guys are trying to prove something. You know, I was like, that's cool. I'll go ahead and go with it. No
Yeah,
problem. You know, not really thinking anything of it. And so they put me with her and everything, and we're going. And next thing you know, boom, armbar. You know, it's up, tap.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. Next thing you know, boom, she puts me in a triangle. You know.
What's a triangle, by the way?
Oh, sure. Excuse me. I apologize. So a triangle. So first, let's start with the armbar. The armbar, basically, she put her legs around my body, took her hips, and basically put her hips into the joint of my elbow, and so it creates this fulcrum. And she's grabbing the end with her hands,
Yikes.
and through that, she's basically dislocating my elbow, my arm.
Like, literally, like,
breaking it. Yeah. So very, very painful. And so and so yeah, you want to tap, to go ahead and show that, hey, I give up. Let's go ahead and start again. So the triangle part is a choke using the legs. So what it does is chokes the carotid arteries. So your shoulder right here will choke this carotid artery, and then her other leg will go ahead and choke this, and it creates a triangle of the legs, basically.
Yeah.
And through that, she made me tap again because, I felt myself getting ready to pass out. Man, she did this probably about a good 6 or 7 times. And after that, I was like, man, if she can do that, picture what I could go ahead and do.
Yeah.
And I was just stuck from there, And I tell the story all the time. I don't even know what happened to that girl. I've never seen her since, really. Yeah, but it definitely made an impression on me. I feel like when it comes to, I've seen it happen so many times because I've been training for so long. You'll see guys come in and, Jiu-Jitsu takes your ego and breaks it down. And so what kind of happens is you'll see some guys, they can't handle that and they'll never show up again.
Right.
And you'll see some guys, they'll come back and they're like, this is what I want to go ahead and do.
Right.
And so with her, that's what it did. It went ahead and brought me back in it where I was like, this is what I want to go ahead and do. I want to do jiu-jitsu, and just kind of went from there, man.
Yeah, I got you. So it took a 90-pound girl to make you fall in love with jiu-jitsu.
That's exactly what it did. Yep, and I just never looked back.
Yeah.
And
it's really cool that you got humbled and then you leaned into it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I was saying. Where it was like, I've seen so many people come in and their ego will be shattered because they'll go against, because I've seen these like 140, 145 pound guys come in, and completely humiliate and destroy someone that's like twice their size.
Yeah.
And it takes a certain man to go ahead and have that happen to them and be willing to come back, So, it's, it kind of, it definitely does something to you. I don't know how to really describe it on that side.
Yeah, it's I think you're at a certain level where, at least mind-wise, where you're able to accept your limitations or current limitations, and realize that it will take time to get to where you want, and you take that as a wake up that, hey, like, this is where I am right now, and that's cool. And I think that's really important in business too, which I want to see if you found that same thing kind of running your business. Are there moments where jiu-jitsu has allowed you to accept limitations or accept things that have not gone your way, and just take that at face value and realize it as a lesson to then improve on?
So it's funny you even bring that up, because whenever I have meetings, my employees always laugh because I always bring up jiu-jitsu. And it just happens because for me, like, jiu-jitsu is so much part of my life that I feel like there's nothing that you in life that you cannot find there where jiu-jitsu cannot have some kind of parable or some kind of story to it that can kind of help you. And so it took me 13 years to get my black belt, and I took 2 years off when I became purple belt so I can finish my business and work on it and everything, because things start moving a little slow, and I wanted to go ahead and kind of give my all to that. And so everybody kind of thought, oh, you'll never come back. This and this. And, you know, man, you sure you want to go and do this? I'm like, I'll be back. I promise you I'll be back, you know? And so when I came back, I made sure I came back, and I came back even harder. But, you know, getting back to jiu-jitsu and business, you know, because I was so used to getting beaten up, you know, in the beginning, where, you know, it's like you're getting beaten up and you're still coming back and you're training even more, because what you find out is the more you give, the better you become. Jiu-jitsu is this beautiful thing where it's like that, and business is like that too. You know, I feel like life is like that in general, where the more you give, eventually, it may take a while, you know, it may not come when you want it to come, but eventually it will happen where, you know, you'll get there, you know. So whenever I see like these brand new white belts, they come in, and, you know, I see that same look, and I remember that white belt feeling, you know, and I tell them, man, just keep on showing up. I was like, and I tell them, you know, there's no faking on the mats, is a little saying that we kind of have. And what that basically means is a few things. You know, one, however your personality is, if you're a quitter in life, well, you're probably going to quit a lot when it comes to jiu-jitsu. You know, it's just the truth of the matter. If you're somebody that, you know, comes in and they're aggressive, your jiu-jitsu is going to go ahead and be shaped towards that. The other thing is, though, what you give on the mats is what you will get. So I've seen people come in, have very little confidence in themselves, including myself, you know, getting beaten up all the time, you know, and being the worst on the mat. They keep it up, and then eventually, over time, they become one of the best. Or you recognize that person, you're like, man, that person, I remember when they were nothing, you know, and now look at them, you know. So business for me was the same way, where, you know, and I always say this, where, you know, I believe in hard work, and part of it's because of, you know, my mom and dad instilling it into me as well. But I really believe that you, through hard work and working as hard as you can, I kind of lost the train of my thought. All right, sorry.
No worries. You're saying that from your parents, you learned the work ethic.
Yeah, the work ethic part of it, you know. And so one thing I always say is that, you know, I may not be the best in the room, you know, especially at that time, but eventually you're going to recognize me, you're going to know me, you know, you're going to be like, man, that guy, you know, he's a tough train, or that guy, he's, you know, he's one of the top agents or whatever, you know, you're going to go ahead and recognize me eventually, you know. And, you know, I never really go based upon talent. I've never been a super talented guy, you know, but my mom and my dad have always told me, you know, just make sure you work hard and never quit, you know. And that's one thing. I mean, they would get upset if I quit, you know, and it kind of always stays in the back of my head. So with jiu-jitsu, is that when I took those 2 years off, you know, quitting would have been the worst thing for me in my head. Like, that would have destroyed me, you know. But I made sure I just stuck with it, you know, and eventually I got my black belt. And, you know, when you get your black belt, the worst part about it, well, not the worst part about it, but the funny part about it is you still keep on going, you know. There's no stopping in it, because there's so much from this art you have to go ahead and learn. So,
yeah. And I think that's a rule for life. It's that there's no final peak to get to. It's just continually working and continually improving. And I think when I had Dentino on, he was saying exactly that, where it's just jiu-jitsu is a definition of loving the process.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I heard a bunch of things that you said there, mainly where you have to have the attitude coming in. If you're a quitter, you're not gonna make it. So if you have been, you need to readjust your attitude the moment you step on the mat or into the business, right? And then also, it was that you didn't put a time frame on when you would get to where you want to be. You just said it's gonna happen eventually.
Exactly.
Which I think is an important thing, because people want, like probably the people that get discouraged, either in business and sales and on the mats of jiu-jitsu, they come in and they're like, I'm going to be a badass. And then if they don't see the results, they're done. So you're like, so your thought is you're going to see the results. Yeah. I don't know when it's going to be, but I'm going to keep putting what I need to put in. And so I know you've lived through it, both yourself for jiu-jitsu and also through the business. I know you've coached multiple people in jiu-jitsu. and you're obviously managing multiple employees.
Mm.
How do you take what you learned and what you've lived, because you know your own ambition? How do you teach that same ambition through both coaching and through being an employer?
Well, for me personally, I try my best to live by example, through example. So, you know, when I have a match coming up, like, I mean, I train every day, you know, for the most part, every single day. You know, it's rare you'll not see me on the mats. In fact, Rose, the Tino's wife, one of our other instructors, she'll go ahead and sometimes, if I'm not there like 2 days in a row, she'll like message me like, Joe, you okay? And I'm like, Rose, it's just been 2 days, like, you know, but I'm there so often that she's like, she gets worried about me. She's like, that's not like Joe. Something must be wrong. Yeah. You know, so it's like Rose, I had to take a little bit of break. I'm sorry, but you know, so people, I feel like when they see me on the mats every single day, knowing also that I have a business and knowing that, you know, I give a lot to that as well, I feel like that kind of helps people and gives them something to kind of emulate a little bit. You know, at least I want to think that. I hope so. You know, I hope that I can, you know, give an example for a lot of people on there. And when I have an actual tournament or a match coming up, I put that to the extreme, where you'll see me now in the mornings, then you'll see me, you know, at 12 noon class, then I'll work 2 hours at night for the gym. I mean, at jiu-jitsu, and then I'll go work out, and then I'll do temple construction. You know,
I know you're all over the place.
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead, but I'm just, you know, because one thing that I feel, you know, even though I'm working, I don't want my opponent to be able to outwork me. You know, and I have in my head, you know, I'm like, this guy is training more than me. You know, it's like, if I'm gonna lose because he's the better man. I'm not gonna lose because I didn't train hard enough. Yeah. And so when it comes to the business aspect, I try to think the same way, where it's like, I mean, there's plenty of times where clients will get an email from me at 1 a.m. on a Friday. You know, instead of going out, I'll go ahead and just spend time, and I'll go ahead and just sit behind my laptop, send out emails, because I get so many emails in a day. You know, it's just kind of ridiculous. So sometimes I have to spend that time on a Friday or a Saturday or even a Sunday and just go ahead and send out emails and answer them back and everything, because I try to treat every client like they're my only client, you know. And sometimes I fall a little short, you know, but for the most part, you know, I feel like most of my clients, and they'll call me some on my cell phone, and I'm just thinking like, man, I shouldn't have given that cell phone number. But, you know, I understand, you know, they need my help right then and there at that time. So I'll go ahead and still answer it or whatever and take care of it. So, you know, time is my most valuable asset, you know, for me personally. So I try my best to give it in those things as much as possible. And so I had a friend of mine that was, we were at a bar, and he wanted to show me chess and how to play it. And I was like, man, if you show me chess,
you're going to want to.
I'm going to dig so deep in it, you know, that I'm going to have no time at all for anything, you know, because that's just who I am, you know. And so that's kind of how it is for business and that. So.
And then we'll see a Netflix
series
called Joe's Gambit.
Yeah, right. It's a good flick.
It is, right, man. That was a really good one. Yeah, I was thinking about that too, because I was like, man, it really got me invigorated. I was like, I want to learn chess, but I thought exactly like you. I was like, dude, if I get into this, I'm going to be reading all these freaking books. And then next thing you know, I'm just going to be focusing. Zal was showing me over there. He's playing chess right now. Yeah. Is it because of Queen's Gambit? Is that why you're playing?
Hey, man, it's interesting. Very interesting.
It's very interesting that something like that can like reinvigorate. And it's, I think this is kind of a random thought about jiu-jitsu. I always felt like jiu-jitsu is such a well-followed sport, but it has yet to get its full limelight.
Yeah.
And all it's going to take is some movie with it. And then next thing you know, everyone's going to be wanting to sign up. It's just wild how that happens.
Yeah. Well, the funny part about it is we've had a few movies that come out, but no one's really done a really good movie on it.
Yeah.
And now they have some weird Nicolas Cage movie called Jiu Jitsu, where it's not really about jiu-jitsu. It's like some kind of alien movie or something like that. It's weird. Very weird. I don't know what Nicolas Cage was thinking about when he did it, but I'm like, this is not the way to bring, you know, to bring interest to the sport. But it has like a little niche crowd, you know, and so it's very difficult. We have so many different companies that have different rule sets.
Yeah.
You know, so that makes it hard too, because everyone's trying to figure out a way to bring regular spectators into the sport. You know, and it's so much like a chess match, really.
Well, I think what I remember the first time I learned about jiu-jitsu was UFC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I remember I was actually at a UFC event live, and it was two guys that were predominantly jiu-jitsu. And like my buddy was like, man, this is going to be boring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
everybody gets like that. Stand them up.
Yeah,
stand them up.
Exactly. So the question is, how do you make a sport that is predominantly about the personal struggle and make that more glamorous? That's the real question, you know?
Yeah, that's what we've been trying to figure out this whole time, you know? Yeah.
I think obviously because it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I bet if you took some sort of, and if any writers out there listening, you could totally steal this. I don't care. So someone who is actually Dentino's story, born in Brazil.
It's a very good story, actually.
Yeah, it's a really good story. You know, basically defining his whole life through the sport. Having someone who comes from Brazil that is obviously a developing country, and you know, taking someone who shy kid, you know, that complete story, and have it go back and forth, and maybe like I don't know, some sort of I think it'd have to be some sort of humanized story with it.
Kind of like what they did with Queen's Gambit.
Exactly, because she had a struggle, you know, so on. So probably struggle and human having
overcoming.
That. I think that would work out. But anyways, who knows? I'm definitely not in Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go ahead and write that. I tell you right now, but and I don't want to be about my life. I don't think I don't know if my life would be that interesting to go ahead. And
I don't know. Come on, Joe. Selling yourself short, man.
Insurance agent.
I know. Yeah, that's the other thing too. You notice there's just so many businesses that definitely don't have, you know, Hollywood quality. Mine included as well. So, but sales, man, I'm telling you, it gets a bad rap for sure. But it's because it's such like what sells, I think, is the like the bravado and the like, you know.
Yeah. So I always, because I remember when I got into sales, one of the things that my old boss would say is like, you don't seem like a salesperson.
Yeah.
You know, and that was to him a weakness, but it became something that became my strength, because what happened was, you know, I wasn't a salesperson. You know, I came to a person just talking to him like you and I were talking, and then got a chance to know him. And then we just eventually somehow I squeezed in insurance and everything. And also I just truly cared. You know, I wasn't really, you know, I would always tell some of my salespeople, you know, I had this one salesperson where, you know, she would just sell, you know, and then sometimes I would go over a policy and I'd be like, how would you do this? Like, that's not really the right thing to go ahead and do. You know, and I had to pull to her side. I was like, look, you have to treat someone like they're your mother or your father or your grandmother, you know, because they're somebody's mother, father, or grandmother. And I'm like, you know, if you do that and you sell something that you're not supposed to, or you add on or you take off something that you're not supposed to, and that person doesn't truly know what they're getting themselves into, then, I mean, you're doing something very, very wrong. It's morally wrong in general, but you're hurting a family in general, you know? And so, you know, that was something that really helped me when it came to sales, was that I truly did care about people, you know? It was like, I didn't want to go ahead and screw anybody over, you know? Whereas I think sales gets, you know, we always hear about the used car salesman, you know, selling somebody a lemon, and then they're going about their business, you know? And so there are, you know, insurance agents that do that. There's all kinds of salespeople that do that. And so I think people get that feeling. I mean, I'm like that sometimes. I'll walk through the store or whatever, and someone's trying to sell me something. I'm like, no, I'm good, you know? Yeah. And then maybe I really was looking for something, and then eventually I'll come back to that person, you know? But yeah, it's like, I don't want to be sold. I'm like, you know, just don't mess with me, you know?
Well, I think it's just a societal thing that as soon as, you don't want to be, like, people don't want to be sold. They'd rather find it themselves for the most part. And I think what doesn't work so well for like someone trying to sell you when you're like in a store, you're there for a purpose. Yeah. You know, so like, I think there's only two ways to really get get a good intro. It's either one, someone's not super busy, or two, they've come in themselves. Definitely not while you're out and about wanting your own personal time.
Yeah.
Or, you know, trying to do something, you know? Like, I should try that experiment though. I should go into the Galleria and I should say yes to everyone's pitch and hear them all out. Yeah,
that would take a lot of time.
It would take a lot of time, and just be like, and see how they do it, because I think, like you were saying, everyone sells differently, and it is actually the person who is coming from the human aspect and looking at it as, hey, what does this person need?
Yeah.
You know, I think the reason why Hollywood is so big on, or the sales movies that do well in Hollywood are so big, is because they actually show just the selfish part.
Yeah, the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and the like, there is some sort of allure about someone who can get anyone to do something. You know,
that is true. That's very good.
That's very allure, and that's not. And going back to what you said before, humbling and accepting your limitations. How have you seen that apply in sales?
Well, being shut down. You want an humbling experience, give your whole sales pitch, and they say, no, I'm good. It's like, that was 30, 40 minutes, man, my best stuff. Come on. Really? So that's like humbling right there. You know, and then, man, when I worked telemarketing, you know, it's kind of like how it is behind a computer, you know. Behind the internet, when someone can't see you face to face, they really, really get a lot of confidence in themselves, you know? And so when it came like telemarketing, it would be like, you call somebody, hey, this is Joe Sirju, with blah, 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 you know, would you be interested in a quote? Nope. Or just click, or they listen, and then, no, I'm good, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, so you're getting shut down, to the point where eventually, which, man, it might have actually helped me with jiu-jitsu now I think about it. I never thought that telemarketing might have helped me with jiu-jitsu, because I got shut down so many times, you know, to the point where sometimes I was just like, you know what, I don't even want to make calls today, you know, because it was just so demotivating, you know, to be shut down over and over again, you know. But then eventually you keep it up and you kind of get used to it, and you no longer sound like a robot and like you're reading a script, you know, and then you start getting the hang of it, and then someone says yes, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
You said yes? Really? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, yes, okay. So
I've noticed that the longer your pitches, the more you're gonna get rejected for sure. I've found 100%. What's that?
And I said no, that too. Yeah, the longer your pitch.
100% over the phone. People have a lot more freedom to just reject you, because the less you're a human to them, the easier it is to reject.
Yeah.
So they can't see you. They just hear a voice. They don't even know what you look like at all. Okay, it's just some dude, you know. Yeah. And maybe it's a robot now for all you know.
Right.
Yeah. So I've found that especially over the phone, you definitely got to get them to talk more, way more than you have to in person, honestly. So I've seen that you have to approach it as you're curious over the phone. You know, hey, you know, you'd be like, hey, this is Joe. I see that you got, how do you guys start off? Like, what information do you have? I've
not done marketing so long, but let me see. Basically, first we're trying to get to the main person on the phone. Then from there, usually how I usually say is, we have an old quote. We'd like to go ahead and see if we can re-quote you. You know, because a lot of time it tends to be that where someone that we've already quoted before in the past, and we're just trying to get them back on the phone. So it makes it a little bit easier. You know, they at least wanted to quote at one point in time, you know, and, you know, from there we've lowered our rates and see if we can get interested in a quote again. So, and once again, I try to keep it short and precise to the point, because I've learned for so many years, like you said, the longer it is, the worse you're going to have, more issues you're going to have with the person, you know, so.
What I would do, I'd be like, hey, Joe, hey, first of all, is this a bad time to talk, man?
Perfect.
And then you would be like,
it is. I'm eating right now.
It is. But then I think the next part, if you have the quote, be like, hey, Joe, man, do you think you can help me out? and then everyone wants to help someone out.
Yeah.
I'd be like, look, hey, I'm going through some notes. It looks like you guys got a quote back here for Allstate before. Could you tell me what was the reason why you guys didn't end up coming with Allstate? What was the reason why you went with whoever you went with?
I had just been with my company for so long, and at that time, I just really wasn't interested.
I got you. Well, I can accept that for sure. I could definitely respect that. Someone that's treated you for a while very well. There's no reason to leave for sure. What would it take to take a look again?
Well, I mean, we're coming up for renewal in about another month. I'll be glad to go and talk to you then and see if we can go ahead. I think we're having a rate increase coming, so.
Perfect. So then, you get that time. You ask the open-ended questions. I don't know. Maybe that wouldn't work.
It's funny that you're doing this because this reminds me of back when I was in high school. We had these contests. It was called DECA, Distributive Education Club of America. Is what it was called. And so you would go on these little kind of almost field trips where they would do these. You know, it was supposed to help you for business, basically. So, and you would do actually this. They would give you a script, and like you would have like so much time to go ahead and like look at the script, and basically then from there, like it would give you a bunch of information, and you'd have to basically write down a few notes on a sheet of paper, and then go in there, and then just go with it and see, and whoever did the best would go ahead and go off and win. So you get points based upon how well you did. The person would go ahead and kind of judge you on how well you did, and then from there you go on to the next stage and go to, I don't know, maybe Florida or whatever. You know, you go somewhere else to go ahead and go against other people. You know, so it's competition. But it reminds me so much as I'm like, man, this seems so familiar. Yeah.
No, and I think that sharpens the sword for sure. And I think more people should do that in general. Honestly, I wish people would just take the time to learn how to converse better. You know,
because we've gotten away from it. So much. It's like sometimes I'll talk to some people that, as we say, millennials kind of thing. We like to give them that term. But, you know, some of them, though, it's like, you know, they're so used to being like in their phone and talking through text messaging. When you talk to them in person, it's just kind of like a, hey, how you doing? Hey. And I'm like, it's like, I just said hi. It's all right. You know, so I feel, we've gotten so out of touch from just a regular conversation and shaking a hand and being in front of people that we've almost dehumanized ourselves. You know, it's so funny.
It's crazy that I was, though it is funny that you wave at someone that's distracted. I was talking to someone about that today where I used to always be overly trying to interact with people. But I realized that even though that worked well with sales, you have to be super aware. Yeah. And like, even though these people probably could utilize some more interaction, not everyone wants to talk right now. And that's, I think, a huge part of sales is understanding that not everyone wants to talk to you. And if you take a subset of that, the ones that will talk to you, not every one of those want to talk to you right now. So you have to figure that out. And it's you want to get to know when or yes. You know,
if you're too pushy, then that'll definitely sour the whole conversation.
Exactly. Especially in the very beginning. You don't want to come off as the Hollywood sales guy, but the bad type. The used car salesman. But
might give you a movie.
What's that?
Might give you a good movie, but
that's true. That's true. Man, there's so many. I love Wolf. I used to make calls with Wolf of Wall Street on the background.
So my one of my salespeople used to do that, where they would before, and I'm like, now that I look back, it probably wasn't the best thing, but I understand it would get him so hyped up. The meeting where he has, you know, where he's like in frent of everybody, he's like yelling at the top of his lungs. He would watch that, you know, before he goes and does anything in the morning and everything. But it was just, it's now I look back at it, I'm like, that's so funny right there, you know. But
well, it's because you want to get that, like, you want to have that energy. And
I think definitely was a lot of energy in that meeting.
Definitely a lot of energy. Speaking of that, by the way, I know like jiu-jitsu is a very, I wouldn't say calm sport, but like centered sport. How do you get yourself amped to be centered?
Got it. Yeah. So everyone has their own little way. And so the only way to really figure out yours is by competing often and trying different things, you know? So Like Duke. You might have met Duke before.
I have,
All right,
yeah.
so Duke has his jiu-jitsu game is aggressive. This aggressive,
Yeah.
I'm coming at you, full speed. When he's in competition, it's like a blitzkrieg just coming at you,
Yeah.
And so behind the scenes, he's, listening to music, he's like going, he has this bunch of energy going, and he's like, it was hilarious because usually I'm always the guy where they'll call in so they can kind of help them warm themselves up, David's warm up, is a little more chill, just keeping them warm up, keeping them moving. Duke's like, hey, let's practice throws. I'm like, all right, cool, man. I had already, maybe had a drink or two, but I was like, all right, let's go ahead and go. I'm glad I had that drink or two because Duke was like throwing me like, pow, pow. People were like looking at us, and I'm just like, man, this is hurting, man.
Yeah.
But that's his way of warming himself up, and he just comes in there full throttle, For me, I have to kind of have a healthy little balance. I don't want to get too amped up too fast. So what I'll do is usually I'm listening to some like classical music in the beginning, maybe just walking around, have my headphones on. I don't like talking to people, where usually I'm a very giddy, happy person talking to people and everything. But when I'm competition, I'm focused, and I'm just really trying to stay just chill, stay away from everybody, stay away from the crowd. I don't even like looking at jiu-jitsu at that time. I'm doing everything but that. And then when it's getting closer up, then that's when I'm like, breathing a little bit harder, warming myself up and everything, doing a little jump rope or whatever, And then when it gets right up there to the match, I'm focused. And so were you there for my black belt match?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm in the back. And so Harriet comes back there. I didn't know they let anybody in the back at the time, And so Harriet comes back there, and I'm like getting ready to walk up, and I'm just like focused, No one's like talking to me. I don't have my headphones on or anything like that. I'm just like, I'm ready. And Harriet's like, Joe. I'm like, hey Harriet, how you doing?
Yeah.
Please take me off my game. She's like, Joe. She's like, good luck out there, man. You're gonna do great. I was like, I appreciate it, Harriet. All right, thank you. All right, so I'm getting focused again. She comes back again and starts talking to me again, and I'm just like, but I'm a nice guy. I'm not gonna tell Harriet. I'm trying to stay focused, but it was like, get back focused again, get in the zone, And so then I get there on the mat, on the platform, and everything, and then from there, for me, I don't know why, just the world just kind of shuts out. And then from there, I'm just looking straight. There's no one in front of me. My opponent, he comes out, he runs around the whole mat, but I just keep looking at his corner,
Yeah.
I'm not even paying attention to what he's doing. I'm just focused. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go, get ready. Just playing things in my head, certain things like to just say in my head over and over again. And then we go, And then from there, I only listen to Dentino. Whatever he says, do. If Dentino says, put my leg here. If Dentino says, do a stretch, while I'm in the match, I'm going to do it. No matter what Dentino says, I'm going to go and do it,
Yeah.
He always tells me, he's like, I'm like a little video game. He's like, whatever he says, I just do it.
So how do you focus on the match at hand, but also are undisturbed by outside feedback from your coach?
Well, listening to him, I always try to make sure I listen to him. Now, there's other people yelling and saying things to go ahead and do, or just yelling in general. Them, I block out completely.
Yeah.
I can.
How have you been able to do that? Like, how does one train themselves to be able to significantly just focus on one thing?
I like to say it's because of meditation, but I think it's growing up in a noisy household. I'd be around my family and everything, and I'm trying to like study, growing up and having to like study and just sit there, and they're all like yelling. I mean, our household was so loud, it was just TV blasting, jokes being thrown, laughter and everything, and I like to think it's because of that, because I just kind of grew up in that kind of environment. I think it just kind of put me in the fire.
Yeah.
But I do also meditate too, so maybe it has a little bit to do with both, But I like to say that. But I really think it's probably more my family.
Thanks, mom and dad.
Yeah, right. All that yelling and everything that's going on. So,
kind of bringing that back to Allstate and business and everything like that. How have you utilized that focus? And is it similar do you amp yourself up to get things done, or how do you take what you've learned to focus in jiu-jitsu towards your business?
I'll say, because there are some days where I'm just like, I mean, just because of one, how much I train, then working, how much I give to that, and then also trying to have some form of social life, all that thrown in there. There's some days where I wake up and I'm just like, I just want to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
You know? But, I do, like, I give myself a strong pep talk, every morning, and I'm just like, get up. I kind of laugh now, even say it out loud, but I'm just like, get up, Joe. Come on, let's go and get this day going, and I get up and I just like, boom. Next thing you know, it's like, all right, go do your temple circuit, go ahead and go over the temple construction, and I'm like, I really don't want to do it. I'm just like, say in my head, come on, do it, go out there, and I really like, I'm, growing up, I think I was a very negative person at one point in time in my life, and the type of self-talk that I had was very negative, where I'd really talk myself out of a lot of things, and I had to learn and teach myself how to have positive self-talk and not beat myself up so much, and also not say I can't do something, and so a lot of the things you see now, there were things in the work where it was like I wasn't always that person, and I'd read books and and I'd see where they're like, positive, self-confident people, they walk like this, So I was like, well, I can do that. So I start walking like that, and then eventually became part of my walk where people kind of talk about that, like, man, you always walk with your shoulders back, and like thinking to myself,
you saying it,
thank you, yeah. So I'm always saying to myself, shoulders back, head up, that kind of thing, So I really tried to focus in on that, and the positive self-talk, I still do that every single day, where I'm just like, get up, do it, do your day. You're not tired. You'll be okay. Or sometimes I'll have a night out, let's say, and I have to do jiu-jitsu the next day, and it's like, whew, I'm like, nope, get in there. You're going to feel better after you do the jiu-jitsu, after you do jiu-jitsu and everything and sweat everything out or whatnot. So it's just more about that, just kind of that's positive self-talk.
Ritual and discipline.
Ritual and discipline, definitely.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very positive message to end on, by the way.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on, Joe, and I really liked how we mixed everything together there.
We did, man. We did. We went everywhere.
Do you have any last thoughts for anyone looking to get into jiu-jitsu or starting their own company that you feel like I didn't grab out of you?
Just when I how I started off the conversation, just do it. I mean, there's no time like now. The worst thing you can go ahead and do is say, I'm going to do it when I'm ready.
Yeah.
Because you'll never be ready.
Yeah.
I mean, we both know how that is. You'll never truly be ready. I've been out before and people will see my cauliflower ear and they'll be like, oh, you do jiu-jitsu? And then they'll be like, oh, I want to go ahead and do that. I was like, well, come on, blah, blah, blah. And I'll give them the number and the address and we'll exchange numbers. And then I won't hear from them again, because they're like, I can hear in the conversation, oh, I'm not really in shape. I'm going to wait till I'm more in shape. You'll never be in shape enough. There's people in there that aren't that great in shape, and then eventually they get there from just coming in and doing it, oh, I got to do this. Well, you'll never be ready. And I just, I'll humor them, and I know they're not going to show up maybe, So what I just have to say is, just go in and do it. And when it comes to the business aspect of things, do it. Take that risk, especially if you're young. Take that risk now because your bounce back will be way easier when you're young, When you're a little bit older, it's a little bit harder. You have a little bit more to lose, you have family, kids and things like that. But man, if you're single and you don't really have that extra weight on you, where you have to take care of people, do it. Yeah, just do it. Yeah.
A lot of Nike. I'm sure Nike's going to take this video.
Yeah, I know, right? Man, this guy's kept up with our slogan.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm sure they love it. No, I think that's good advice. Yeah, just there's a tendency for people to say, I will do this when. I'll do this if. I'm not ready for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can always make up that excuse, even if you're done everything possible to get yourself perfect. You'll still find some reason.
You'll find something.
You'll find some reason. So that's good, man. For those who are listening, obviously you guys have realized that Joe can help you with all your insurance needs. So
And
you can
jiu-jitsu.
and jiu-jitsu needs. He's an amazing coach. I know David knows that pretty well. So if you want to find him online, he is on Instagram. His personal is at Joe Sirju 101 at JoeSirju 101.
Hey, good. Impressive.
And then you'll find Joseph Sirju on Facebook, which will be directly connected to Allstate. You can go to the Allstate website, look him up as well, and he'll help you out. Remember, you're always in good hands with Joe. That sounds so nice.
It does sound, yeah. Good sound to it.
And if you have any questions about insurance or jiu-jitsu, shoot them below in the comments. And real quick, I'm sure I could find that link, huh?
Yeah.
We'll put that link to the Allstate website down in the description of the comments as well. As always, let us know what you think of Texas Tea. You know, you can get to us through all our social as well at TXTEA podcast. That's Instagram as well as TikTok, and also that is on Facebook as well. So all TXTEA podcast, Texas hyphen abbreviated Texas Tea podcast. So let us know what you guys think. Send us a message, send us an email, call us somehow. Smoke signals, that all works. But anyways, once again, guys, appreciate you for coming on. Let us know who you guys want to bring on next. All right, man.
All right, man.
That was good.
All right.